Well, I guess this is it. This is the show tonight. I don't know. I think this is just me. Is it just me or is everything really laggy? That's what I get for updating, I don't know, the video drivers or anything before this. I know I put out the share thing for everybody. So let me, because Carrie put out a message last minute. It said she was not feeling well, and I know Miss Giannis is working late, so right now I am all alone. Even though Bradford said he would be here, hopefully everything is working here. Hopefully you all can hear me. Well, yeah, I'll play Mr. Lonely. Like I said, I hope nothing is looking too jaggy right now because everything is on my end. The video is looking very laggy. And again, that's what I get for updating. So I'll just do the countdown and we'll go from there. Yeah, so everything is looking a little laggy right now. Sam is saying everything is looking. I can even see it in my. Let me just check something here. Again, I that's what I get for trying to do this last second. Audio's working. That's good. Ooh, I could start recording separate audio for each guest. That's fun. But yeah, I'm just checking this out and everything. Let me see if I can. Does that help? Nope. Yeah. So, well, audio's perfect. Okay. Well, I'll make a go of this at least for a little bit here. See if the rest of the team can make it in tonight. I know that I look like a VR person. All right. Welcome in, everybody. My name is James O'Hagan. I am the host of the Academy of Esports podcast, and tonight also I am no co-host. Looks like I'm flying solo on the Esports EDU chat. I don't know if there was a strike. I don't know what's happened, but this is where we are. So where do I begin with all this? I do have a topic to discuss tonight, and it was going to be a group discussion, but I will just pull it up here and we'll just jump right in. And if you're seeing something that again is piques your interest, let's engage on the conversation, and let's get to it. So this is a report. I'm going to pop this up on screen right here so everybody can see, and I'll put it in the chat here as well too. And we'll see. We'll make a go at this one. So here's a report coming from this place called the Rob Report. I don't know anything about the Rob Report. It looks like they go for like fine things. Their subjects up at the top are cars and yachts and aviation and watches and style and home. So probably everything that's well outside my price range. But here, let me pop up the Chrome tab here with this. So here's the report, and here's the thing that really kind of piqued, I guess you could say, my interest. Meet the teenage gamers raking in millions in the high-stakes world of esports. And the subtitle, all those hours in front of screens might just pay off. Now, as we're educators in this space, and as we're starting to not only just engage with other educators in this space, but also with parents, one of the things that we do need to be mindful of with all of this is realistic expectations. So let's take a moment to talk about realistic expectations, right? Because as you look at that story, if you poke into it a little bit and give it a little more breadth, it is talking really about outliers. And I know that in the recent weeks especially, we have what some people see as, again, an opportunity to make a whole bunch of money within scholastic esports. People who make money, again, not just scholastic esports, but just in esports in general. We know we have a lot of people coming in. The group that is not yet fully engaged is our parent group. And I don't know if any of you have started parent advisories or even reached out to your parents in your groups, but the parents of our schools, let's focus on scholastic side, need to not only, I guess, see this story, but also realize that we as educators need to guide them through a story such as that one. That while, yes, there are teenagers who are raking in millions, and yes, there are kids who are, basically getting generational wealth playing video games. Those are our outliers. Those are the exception to the rule. Those are not the reasons why we are putting ourselves into the scholastic esports space. It is a conversation that we need to be very upfront and honest with parents about. I see Bradford's checking in right now. Hey, Bradford, thank you for leaving me here by myself. Hi, everyone. Yes, thank Bradford. We need to make sure that we are setting, I guess, some very specific rules of guidance for parents in this space. I don't know if there's anybody here who has any feedback or things that, yes, I'm by myself, Bradford. I am here all alone. Carrie called off sick very late. Angelique is still working. So Danielle, I don't know where she is, and you are in the chat, my friend. So we're just having fun tonight. But again, this gives me the opportunity, I guess, to kind of pontificate, if you will, about what are roles of parents, because there has been some really good dialogue coming out right now, especially if you're in the Esports EDU Discord, around parental involvement. Now, for some of you, you may see parents as being the, I guess, not necessarily a barrier, but kind of that unknown, right? Let's look at this again through the perspective of an educator. As an educator, we do, by and large, everybody does great things in their classrooms. I myself, as an educator, when I first started teaching, started the traditional way. I was a 5th grade educator, and then I got out of giving out a lot of homework. Now, you would think there would be parents who would applaud the fact that I didn't give out a whole lot of homework. I had a self-contained class, and I had those kids in my grasp of my hands from 8 o'clock in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. They were mine. And we had our agenda of things that we needed to do, and we'd work through that agenda during the day. And sometimes there'd be those teachable moments. Sometimes there'd be those moments where we take a break from what is on the agenda, and we would go do what we would need to do. Sometimes we'd get back from lunch, and you could just tell that the energy in the room was low or different. And instead of taking 20 minutes to read to kids, I take an hour to read. Realizing again that these kids are only 10 years old once, and that we already have a very high stakes society when it comes to certain things, expectations around work and how long you work and the success that's tied to all of that. When I was teaching, I really downplayed the importance of homework. And yes, I did have parents who were very supportive, but I also had parents of children, very smart kids, who pushed back against that. Parents who pushed against the idea of not giving their kids enough homework. The idea that 2 hours was what they felt was appropriate, or, more than 2 hours was appropriate every day. And I could see why they were wanting that, because there was the perception again that, more homework leads to better test scores, and better test scores leads to a better place in life. Really, when I actually got hold of the data, and there was a lot of faith that there had to be in this, but when I got hold of the data and I could show that compared to the 6 other classrooms of their peers, that their kids were no further behind. In fact, in some cases they were ahead, because the perspective of education was, this takes place here, and then I get to go be a kid after school, go do those extracurriculars and go do those things. That became a real positive thing for my parents to look at. And I had parents wanting to have their kids in my room because, again, I had the perspective of putting things in the right mindset when it came to homework. Now, again, we are the ones. If you're watching this right now, there's a few of us here. If you're watching this, chances are you're a fan of esports. Chances are you're probably somebody who loves everything that we do. Well, not everything, but by and large, you like this field. Yes, there's warts, and yes, there's gross things that are happening in scholastic esports, but by and large, we have hope that things are going to turn out right. We do, but realize that because this is so high interest, and because, again, you're talking about 97% of boys and 83% of girls, according to Pew Research, who are into playing video games, who identify as being a gamer, there's going to be parents who don't agree with that mindset. And yes, we're going to get kids who we are going to attract the high school level, the middle school level, the elementary level, who are going to come home with that flyer, who are going to come home with that air of expectation, of happiness, of joy, of finding something in school that they really want to do. And they're going to take it to their parents, and their parents are going to tell them no, or in some cases, heck no, or some cases worse than that. We have not done a good job of engaging parents in this space. And again, it has been called out appropriately. And I will say this, that if you are in the Esports EDU Discord and you are seeing a woman named Fiona in that Discord, she is a parent who sees the benefits of this for her son. And she is the nice one. She is the nice parent who's coming in, asking very critical questions that some of us are honestly afraid to ask, that I'm afraid to ask of the people who are trying to lead these scholastic efforts. She's the nice parent. She's the parent who has done the research. She is the parent who has looked at what all of this could entail and the positiveness for her son. But what she's not seeing is transparency. What she's not seeing is full-on parent engagement in this space. We're doing a pretty good job of engaging our kids. Oh, good. Here comes the cavalry.
Here comes the one with crazy vertigo today. So we'll see how this goes.
Well, don't fall over on me, okay?
I'll make sure that I log off before I feel like I need to spontaneously vomit. So.
Well, Carrie, obviously, if you're not feeling well, I mean.
No. We'll give it a go. I'm better than I was 30 minutes ago. So.
All right. Well, did you catch anything of what I was saying about engaging parents in this space? I was just on my soapbox about, again, Fiona getting into the Esports EDU Discord and laying out some questions that I'm afraid to ask, questions that a lot of us are afraid to ask. Well, and she's laying out some very clear things, especially around parental engagement. And she's again reminding people she's the nice parent. She's the one. She's the one who's asking the critical questions in a very nice and thoughtful way, and not necessarily getting answers that speak to her.
Well, and parents should be asking questions. And I think one thing that I really like about Fiona is I spent, I want to say the first half of my working career started at 17, sitting on a board of directors for a nonprofit. And I spent a good 9 years in the nonprofit sector. And I think a lot of people in esports, you end up in nonprofits, but you didn't necessarily cut your teeth on them. And you've got, Robert's Rules of Orders. Like there's a whole pile of stuff that governs how nonprofits operate. So just her experience in that aspect, I think, has been really great, because some of the questions that she's asking, your average parent I wouldn't think to ask them, but somebody with a nonprofit background can go, hey, these are some things that I'm seeing. I just want to make sure that the stuff is being done right. And I think that's stuff that we all need to be aware of, because if we're doing things wrong, especially in ways that are illegal, we're potentially building in instability to these programs. And that, in the long run, will end up having a negative impact on students. So I think, she's got some great insight, not just on engaging parents, but coming from, background that's specific to nonprofit, because that's going to be relatable to, a lot of esports organizations. And I think we need to be aware of the fact that, like, when we deal with parents, not every parent is going to be unsavvy about games or youth organizations. I know, when I would go into my son's school, sometimes I'd run into teachers that are just like, oh yeah, it's just a parent. Like, no, you don't understand. Like, I've got my master's in education. I teach. So no, you can't just parent me. I have the same vocabulary that you do. I have the same knowledge base that you do. I know exactly what you're trying to not address. So let's please cut the BS and, let's have this dialogue. And, I think that's being able to see things from a parent's perspective is definitely can be a challenge. I know that for me, the last 2 years, just being a parent and not being a teacher has been really hard. I know that I've talked to some of you guys where I've exploded in DMs, like in private, and been like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what's happening right now in my son's school. I just want to rip this teacher to pieces. And then I have to breathe and be like, I've been there, I've been in those shoes, but the parent perspective is really different. And sometimes I think as educators, we need to take a step back and remind ourselves that the parental experience is a really different one, and it's a really emotional one. It's visceral. We can't lose sight of that.
And Fiona has popped into chat here. The key to have the initial invitation to parents show how scholastic gaming is the best ally parents can have when it comes to the biggest challenges they have with their teens at home. Fights about sleep, bad nutrition, not engaging. A responsible scholastic gaming program is the key to having kids move in the right direction. I think that's, again, I think that is so important. And again, it's so easy because, look, except for Angelique right now, no offense to you, Angelique, I'm an educator, a dad, and a gamer. Carrie, mom, educator, gamer. Angelique, gamer, educator. It's so easy for us to sometimes just fall out of, or either we see everything and how it all interconnects, or we have trouble seeing how it all connects.
Yeah.
And I think for us, for us in here, at least in this group, it's very easy for us all to see how it connects. And we can get, I don't want to say the word sloppy, but we can get sloppy about, talking about things in gross generalizations. This is just like teaching a little kid. This is like teaching that freshman, Angelique, you can talk about this. Teaching that freshman day one. They show up on campus and they know nothing. They think they know everything, but really they know nothing.
The sophomores still do. Still do, yeah. I don't know what I walked into. I'm sorry I'm late. Hi, I'm here.
Well, we're talking about...
I'm late too, so.
I was trying to listen, but it kept pausing on my phone. I'm sorry, so I missed what you guys were talking about.
Well, we're talking right now about engaging parents in this space. Again, the Esports EDU Discord this week has been especially prolific, I think, just because we have had a parent in there, Fiona, who has been laying down some very specific, pointed questions, not just about nonprofits, but if you read through those questions, it's not the attack on do you have your nonprofit, which I love. The fact I love about this is now there's all these state associations going, okay, we're taking notes. Oh, we're going to do all these things. They're taking that to heart, and they're going back and saying, here's our action plan moving forward, because it was cool that we got our nonprofit set up, but oh my God, we have done none of these other things that you conveniently forget to do. But buried in those comments is also the reason why she is being so particular is because she does see the value in this. She does see how important this is. There needs to be nonprofit organizations like NASEF says that they are, but when you go and you do the searches for, you know, where those places where you can go look them up for grant funding, they're not on there. When you go look for that 990 form from the IRS, she can't find it. And here's the thing, and Carrie, you probably could speak to this too. A nonprofit, for very good reason, is about as close to a public trust as you can have outside of calling it a public trust. Because it can be, if you could mismanage or misuse a nonprofit as a tax shell game. Seriously, there's
a lot of nonprofits do. I mean, and it's like even how you hold your money, how you hold donations is specifically governed. Like, and then anything that's grant funded, like, oh my gosh, the accountability that's attached to a grant is astronomical. Yeah, it's the transparency that is required for the nonprofit sector is real. Like, you should be able to dig up a lot of stuff. But a lot of people don't know that. Like, it's one thing. Like, I mean, I know a lot of people who've started nonprofits that, like, oh, this is my baby. It's like, no, as soon as you get your paperwork that goes through, that's the board's baby, and that board is going to change because there's an electoral process, and you don't have control of this entity. You have birthed it, and you are a founder, but it's going to grow and change, and it can really quickly become something that's not what you had planned it to be, or it becomes, you know, something awesome and big and great, but it's not. It doesn't belong to a person. You know, it belongs. I don't want to say that it belongs to itself, but it belongs to its board. It belongs to this, you know, a group of people that control it.
That's the damnedest thing. The board is the boss of the executive director.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people, because again, a lot of us, especially in this group here, and I know people in chat, are asked all the time to serve as advisors. The difference with this is not only are you as a board member not working in that capacity, you are somebody's boss. It's like being a school board member, or being like me, a library board member. You are the boss of the executive director. You should be able to walk in that executive director's office and say, lay out for me everything you're working on. Now, I don't recommend doing that because that's micromanaging, but you are putting yourself as a member of a board at a legal risk. You are putting yourself in a legal situation when you are overseeing these things. So, you know, let's take NASEF. You have Clint Kennedy, Brooke Haig, and Mark Candela Garvey. Those people, if that nonprofit is not up to speed, if not up to snuff, they can be held at legal risk and sued.
Yeah.
Over
so,
that.
I mean, I think the thing that again, it's hard because a lot of people don't know what they're getting into when they're coming on to a nonprofit. But yeah, your board sort of outlines, and I want to say CC&Rs. I'm in homeowners association mode. Your bylaws. There we go. There's the word. Your bylaws lay out how your organization is structured, and that includes, you know, some of the roles and responsibilities of the people that are going to be within your organization. But yeah, your board is the one that makes
freezing.
The feed's been
there.
Rough. I'm back. I could see myself spin as a little wheel of disconnection. Yay!
And Angelique, I only muted you because you're. I know you got a new computer, but that keyboard and that microphone you got is like on. Like, did you put the keyboard on top of the microphone?
My mic is up here.
Oh, well,
it's loud.
Yeah, we can hear all your typing.
Is it? Sorry, yes. I don't know why.
No, I'm just saying it's. That's why I muted.
Why is it so loud? What did I do? I don't know what I changed. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
No. I know that there's things you can do to bring down it's the curse of the mechanical keyboard, I guess.
Okay, you can teach me.
Mike Dolly, when we have our board meetings, he's like, you can hear him just
I'm bad at typing during meetings. I can't sit in a meeting and not still work, so I'm always clicking away, and occasionally I get called out for it.
So there was another good point that was brought up into here. And Carrie, I know before you spun out on us and failed out.
Sorry.
Again, Fiona, putting it in chat. Here's the thing. It's so understandable if new orgs don't have all that stuff done. People are so busy trying to pull things together in the beginning with no resources, no funds, just hard work. Shoot, I know Mike Dolly was paying out of pocket to fund everything that we got started with Wisconsin High School Esports Association. And we didn't have a whole heck of a lot of guidance. And there was a lot of guessing that was taking place. And
but there should always be at least one person that is in charge of, that is making sure that everything is getting done, or at least is keeping track of the progress towards having it. Because, like, you know, nonprofits, you can be operational. It's like starting a school. Like, you can sort of be operational before all your paperwork's due. Like, there's weird things that exist in legalese, but you should always be heading in that direction. So if there isn't at least one or two people on that board that are like, okay, this is the checklist, this is our timeline of when we're going to hit all these goals, like, you should always be aware of that. If you need to know, somebody should be able, you should know who to go and be like, okay, what do we need to have done by when, and how far along that process are we? If you don't have that, you're in trouble. Like, I mean, Don was our guy. Don was the guy that had that list, and you always knew, like, hey, what's going on? What laws have changed? What things do we need to be aware of? What adjustments have been made? Like, how do we have to shift? When do we have this meeting? You know, and even things like not having a meeting if you don't have a quorum. Like, there's certain things you can't move on if you don't have enough people present. And I know I've definitely heard of people like, oh yeah, well, you know, like 2 of us were there. I'm like, that's a quorum. Like, you can't make that decision with that number of people. Like, that's a big decision. There's no way that is you table that and you come back when you're bored, when you have enough people to make that call. Otherwise, it's just it's so much problem.
And then you're running it like, I don't know, a foundation or a for-profit business, or, you know, where there's just a boss, and then your other people are just kind of sitting around going harumph, harumph, harumph.
Yeah.
Sorry,
they're different.
Saddles reference for those.
They're different creatures, nonprofits. They're different creatures, and they're great, but they come with their own set of challenges. Like, when I branched off with, you know, my old business partner, we specifically didn't go nonprofit because there are control issues and certain things that are like, yeah, this isn't going to be the way to go, and LLC is going to be better. Like, you know, there's flaming hoops to jump through. You need to know where they are.
and I hope, and I don't know, Angelique, you're not looking to start any nonprofits or anything.
The reason why I'm not chiming in is I had know nothing about this stuff. I'm not familiar with any of it, so I'm taking in all your information. But no, I do not.
Well, and again, they are blood, sweat, and tears at the beginning. But again, if you're coming in with experience, if you're coming in having worked with nonprofits, operated within the bounds of nonprofits, in the same hemisphere as nonprofits. Again, a school district is not a nonprofit. That's a governmental entity that has a whole different set of rules. So if you're going to run it like a school district, that's totally different. But if you're coming in with, there are things you should just know as basic. And like I said, that if you don't know what the IRS 990 form is, you can go basically to any nonprofit and ask for that. You don't have to be a member. You could just be a person and give it. Because again, it's a public trust. These nonprofits, they are not supposed to be these ivory tower citadel things. They are supposed to be open and transparent. And I think that's the thing that scared the hell out of a lot of us with this whole NASEF HSCL.
Everyone else realizing they're not in compliance either?
It's not that. All of a sudden realizing that these groups, we should have a say or of some sort, or we should be able to ask very direct questions and get very direct answers, but we weren't. Not of HSCL, but about that. Because even when you put an alliance together between a nonprofit and a for-profit entity, oh my God, there's regulations with that as well too. Because again, it could be a tax shell game.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's, I mean, and anytime anybody attacked, there's the whole can of worms of conflict of interest.
Oh, let's get into that, shall we? Like,
Well,
I don't know, having a role
like,
at the for-profit company while you're running a nonprofit.
I don't want this to become like, too overtly, but it's things that what I hope is that everybody, especially everybody who's in the Esports EDU Discord, because I know there are a lot of nonprofit, there are a lot of people in there that are operating under a nonprofit. I am hoping that everybody is watching this and realizing, like, one, this is not an attack. It's not an attack on NASEF, but it is most definitely a learning opportunity for people to see, like, one, hey, like, these are things we need to be aware of. And watching the chat, clearly a lot of people aren't. Fiona wouldn't have had such a huge response to the posts that she was making if people were aware of a lot of the things that she was posting. So there is a lot of, not necessarily confusion, but lack of knowledge as to the structure. So I just want to make sure that people are taking this as a learning situation. Like, hey, there's obviously a lot of learning that needs to be done within the industry as to how this operates, and what you need to do to be in compliance. And yeah, like you said, that transparency, that was what we talked about last week. Like, what do we expect from organizations? And not like, that's not just what we expect from them, but that's how we expect to conduct ourselves. Like, what are the questions that now we know we need to ask beforehand? Because again, I think a lot of people weren't thinking of, well, should I be asking this? What should I actually be requesting to see from them before I partner, before I get involved with something? So I think it's just been a good learning opportunity kind of for everybody.
Well, and again, it's been a wake-up call for our state associations. And here's what I would love to see. And how do we take this and turn this into a solution, right? How do we turn this into something positive for the community in general? It isn't just a matter of sharing the knowledge, but I guess sharing the knowledge, but having, a way that these state associations can partner together to kind of go through together, whether that's a workshop or whether that is I'd pay money for something like that. I'd pay, if I got, if our association had to come up with $500 to attend, as a board and as an executive director and sit down with the other 14 or ever how many state associations there are, and literally just go through for a day and get questions, go through, take us all through, here's all the things you should have done.
Yeah.
Make sure you have all these. If you don't know where these things are, what they are, here's what you need to do. And then being able to ask questions. But being able to, I guess, I don't know, write the book on it.
So, we were talking a couple of weeks ago about like esports certification and trainings that we don't need. This is one that we do need.
Hold on, Mike. I'm not saying that we're not paying for all of Wisconsin, for all of us, not individual $500. I'm saying an association. We figure out what that number is. And if Fiona wants to run that, I don't know. I'm not speaking for her in this case, but I'm just saying, or somebody like her, somebody that, again, I look at what the associations are doing right now. And again, I think what this NASEF HSEL thing has done is put not pressure, but an opportunity in front of the state associations to say, you know what? We can drive our own ship as a group. And I realize that every state wants to do something a little bit differently. But even if it's like a loose confederation, kind of thing, I think that that's a good thing. That we are not that we are first beholden, like a lot of us are. We are first beholden to our school districts, and then to our state, and then anything after that is gravy. Okay, drop the mic. I don't know. Todd McFarland of Illinois says, this is something that NASEF should have done for us as affiliates. This is one of those things we are asking for. Help with the side of running esports, high school esports that we don't know.
But I think we're just getting to the point that we realize, like, organizations are realizing that they don't know it. Like, I think we've got to be realistic about the growth of the industry. We've come out of that phase of we're all just doing whatever we can do to get these programs up and running. And now we're at the point where we're like, oh crud. I've got this and I've got that. And these actually need to be running in a way that's legally, sound. What does that mean? Because now it's not just one person throwing stuff together. Now you have an organization, and that organization is governed by rules. So I think we're at the place where we should be expecting to be, which is needing to find state and federal compliance with where we've grown to, and that's going to be a little uncomfortable. And I think it's hard because I think sometimes in the esports community we can be a little gatekeepery and we can be a little reluctant to accept the input from people outside of the industry. And I think at this point we need to take a step back and be like, those people who are familiar with running nonprofits that have nothing to do with esports, we need to sit down and talk to those people, because those people have been doing this. They know the ins and outs of this, and even though it's not esports related, it's nonprofit related, and that's what we're in. So I think we need to start, asking for help, and being okay with that coming from the people who've been doing it for decades.
And we as educators, we should know this better than anybody. And again, Fiona popped this into chat. For people here in nonprofit organizations to go forward, knowing that the more transparent you are, even if you say, I don't have that yet, but it will be done by this date, I'm happy to send it. Just saying, I don't have it. We as educators, we always try to be the sage on the stage. We try to always have the answer. But really what we should say sometimes when we don't know is, I don't know the answer to that, but let's find that together. Being honest and transparent. This is a community. This is the thing. When everybody says, what's this whole scholastic esports thing about? I said, ultimately, it all comes back to community for me. Mm-hmm. And in a community, if we are not transparent, if we are not open and honest with each other about what we're really doing, that's why I get on Playversus when they spout we're in 43% of states. No, you may have a kid who signed up for Playversus in Idaho, right? But that doesn't mean that kid is actually competing. That doesn't mean Idaho has a Playversus affiliate going on there or anything like that. It's the transparency and the honesty. That's a sword I will die on, is on top of the community here. And again, there's Todd's checking in again. Biggest thing was that they had the money, lawyers, accountants to aid us where we have none of it. We could have had valuable sessions about those topics and not sales pitches from their partners. I mean, but again, how until last week or 2 weeks ago, how many of us stood up and said people didn't know. I knew we had a state association. I knew we had a nonprofit. I was happy with that. Okay. I didn't think anything more about it. Hey, did Brian fill out the IRS paperwork? Cool, we're good. Now it's like, oh crap.
Yep. A lot of people are scrambling. Right?
Yeah. So, Angelique, how's that? I don't know if we're killing the conversation. I don't know. I think we've talked this quite a bit. But again, this all comes back to, parental involvement. Because again, our transparency and our trust and setting up things still comes back to all this stuff that we're talking about with parents. About being open and honest and transparent of what esports is. Again, realizing that there's going to be parents who are going to ask questions that they just are ignorant to. They don't know what question to even ask sometimes. But how are we developing those relationships, especially with those parents who don't know anything? Like Angelique, you're in your program. Let's bring you into this because I know you've been a really good listener today, Angelique.
I don't know anything about that stuff. So I have
And I'm not trying to talk down to you. I'm doing that. I'm doing my teacher, and you're the student in the class. Kind of thing.
Yes, so. I will volunteer my answer. What was your question?
No. But with your program, have you been engaging with your parents, or is it largely?
There's not a lot of parent engagement in my school in general. So no, I mean, like a few kids here and there, their parents I've talked to in passing, like when that child was my student, and they would say like I had a parent come to my club to pick up his son and say like, I'm so thankful for your club because it gave him a place to be and meet people. And I was nervous that he wasn't going to make any friends. And so, but I've never had any negative pushback from parents about my club ever. They've all been really supportive, especially during the pandemic. Like I was saying, parents on Facebook and stuff were very supportive that I was running Fortnite Friday. So
I know.
Yeah.
Oh my God, who does not have their phone muted?
Me.
This
one
show...
with the really obnoxious text sound,
that was cute.
Because I am hard of hearing and it's got to be really loud and really long for me to go, oh, my phone.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, it's muted now.
I've wanted to do like a parent, like a duos Smash tournament with your parent kind of thing.
Like
but
a
I think, yeah, but a lot of like the demographic of students that are at my school, a lot of their parents are working during like after school hours, and there's not a whole lot of parent involvement in general, like at meetings and parent nights and stuff like that. Even back to school night, there's not a lot unless it's like honors or AP classes. So it's hard to get parents involved in anything in high school age, I think.
Yeah.
In general, high school
100%.
age, like sports, yes. Everything else,
no.
You're on your own.
They're done.
Yeah. They're done. So it's tough. But I've never had any negative pushback from parents ever.
I've found it to be really, like, I think for me, when I was running Gaming for Education, it was more the focus on being a support, because, and even just being like the other parent when my son has friends that are into gaming. Like, parents don't know how to handle even screen time, like managing how to tell your kid to get off a computer and have that not be combative. Like, and for me, like, I spend a lot of time having those conversations. Like, well, how are you setting the expectations? How are you handling, this, and this? And, a lot of my interface with parents, professionally and personally has just been about, having them reach a point where they understand gaming culture and, the pros and cons, and then how to handle their child's relationship with gaming. Because there can be a lot of animosity that gets built up between, the child and the parent, and that can get really negative really quickly. And it doesn't need to be there. It doesn't need to be there if they're handling things right and they're setting expectations and limits and all that. But
well, that's why I'm really excited about this opportunity that I've just been given in the last 48 hours of how, somebody said, I was texted yesterday, how much do you need to start a middle school and elementary esports program? And again, it was based on ESSER funds. And those of you who don't know what ESSER funds are, those are coming from the federal government. They're supposed to help with re-engagement of kids in schools. And so I thought all these funds were spoken for. Found out today that the district is actually $20 million over their commitments, but they're still figuring out priorities. I got $500,000 to build a middle and elementary school esports program over the next 3 years.
Awesome.
And I can still go out and look for grants, and I can still do all that fun stuff. But here's the thing, I can't just build my middle and elementary esports program like the high school program. Mm-hmm. It can't just be hey, let's take what we did here and move it down here. Even the elementary to the middle is going to be very different.
Yeah, absolutely.
When we think about this, the key to me in all of this, and maybe it's, Angelique, in your situation, the conversation is just starting too late. But working with those parents, kindergarten, first, second grade, having those conversations about screen time, having those conversations about, what games are appropriate or what's not, or how do you manage the kid who's the high schooler with the kindergartner and not having them sit there watching Call of Duty or, Grand Theft Auto or whatever it is. How do you create these better spaces and developing those parent cohorts, finding those champion parents who will go to other parents and talk to those parents about these things from the perspective of what they have and what they're dealing with. I can't be the spokesperson for that all the time. No. Teachers, and again, teachers can't. They need to find peers and they need to find people who are respected. So building this cohort, hopefully what this does at the elementary and middle school level, this carries on up into high school as these kids age up. Now you have a community of people, a community of educated parents who, when you start talking about these things, it isn't just what's happening in the school, but now you're looking at a community that is ready to take bigger leaps when it comes to gaming and gaming culture. That's the thing I'm excited about with this. When I vision this out, I see, again, not just a missing piece, but now, these people are voters. Parents are voting. And now when you bring initiatives to your city council or to your community and say, hey, we would like to see these kind of things happening. Now you can get some real serious dollars behind these things. You can find those benefactors in your community because now they're educated. They talk at these parties. They talk at these. I mean, think about that. Think of the cascade effect of that.
Yeah.
But they're going to ask harder questions than what Fiona's asking.
Yes.
And if a NASEF pulled something like that on some parents who, let's just say, are a little bit more just as educated, but not nearly as nice at asking the questions, that could become a very publicly ugly thing that could have been Facebook posts, Twitter, Instagrams. I mean, that could have been just a takedown, a very public takedown.
We saw how wild everything got right after the announcement. It could have just gotten so much worse. Yeah. Absolutely.
I think what I've noticed, at least with my club, is giving my kids that space after school to come play games with their friends. Not that it makes them game less at home, but I think it helps them understand responsibility and control better. They get to have their game time for 2 hours after school with their friends, and then they go home and do homework. So I think, creating that space too lets them kind of set themselves on a schedule. Well, today I'm going to go play games for 2 hours after school, and then I'm going to go home and do homework. Or what inevitably ends up happening too is the kids come into my club and they're playing Smash with their friends for a little while, or they're playing whatever else with their friends for Roblox, and I don't know, there's so many games. But then they'll take a break and they'll say, hey, let's do our math homework really quick for like the next half hour. So let's work together and do it so we can finish it and be done with it. So, and that's something that obviously I encourage them to do their homework, but in my after school grant program that we have, I'm not allowed to require, because I've had teachers ask me before, well, do you require them to have their homework done before they come play? And I'm like, no, that's none of my business.
No. Right.
It's none of my business. Like, you like, I'm not going to make you do your homework, but it just happened that way where kids connected and they came and they would set those own boundaries for themselves and do their homework and game and take a break and go back and forth. And I'm like, I feel like that is setting them up for success and teaching them responsibility and teaching them time management, like knowing that you get a break and then you do work just like we do as an adult. So, setting up that program when they're younger is even better, so then they can get in that habit early.
Fiona, just wanted to make this clear, and I think it is important to say, NASEF didn't pull anything on me. The executive director, whose job is to handle those questions during his announcement tour, did not do his job. Big difference. NASEF staff is great. Kevin, Jarrell, Sam, Jess, she's not there anymore. Yeah, and I don't want this landing on them, and we don't. Again, I look at that curriculum that they have there. That stuff's phenomenal. The stuff that they wrote for, if you want help with your ESSER fund, like you need a proposal for ESSER funds. Oh my God, go look at their curriculum that they have, for summer, for an 8-week program. But yeah, again, this still comes back to, again, the messaging to parents and engaging with parents and how are we doing it and when do we do it? And Angelique, again, it's not that you're not. It may come off as me saying you're not doing a good job. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you're on an island. You're catching these kids coming into your school from gosh knows when, and you're just trying to make it. Are you ever going to be able to get a partnership down to a middle or elementary level before they come to you? It does, that sounds like a heavier lift. That sounds like something.
Sounds like a lot of unpaid work.
Yeah, right?
It is. So, wow. Technical issues aside, so I've been stuttering. My video's been stuttering all night because that's what I get for updating my video drivers before.
That's what you get.
Angelique was super clicky tonight. Carrie didn't mute her phone and came in late as well. So,
but
I was late too.
Listen,
the world spinning thing was a bit of a problem.
I was late with good reason. I mean, I think we all were, but I had a meeting today after school, and we're planning a no backpack days for our first 2 days of school, and it's going to be strictly community building. So, and like getting the kids acquainted to campus and getting them to know each other. And so I'm on the committee to plan that. So we were doing that, and I'm going to host blindfolded Mario Kart races. I think I was talking about that last time. So we're planning like different rotations for the kids to come to, and they're going to like intertwine with all the grade levels. So I'm on the committee to plan that. So that's what we're doing today. So late, but late with good reason, and I'm involving gaming. So it's going to be fun.
And Sam says, my first reaction to no backpack was, is this a new safety precaution?
For real, right? For real.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
I honestly, when I heard it, I thought that too. But they're like, oh, you don't need a backpack because you're not doing any work.
You're not bringing your work with you.
And there's going to be no Chromebooks, nothing. So they're like, no tech. I'm like, but I'm still going to bring my Switch. So there'll be a little tech.
I don't like that designation. Like, a pencil is technically technology. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think the emphasis is no classwork. No academics, because the tech can be fun and it can be team building.
Team building, communication. I mean, like we were talking about, half of my school has never really been on campus. Yeah. So, like some of the kids who still haven't come to school, right? They didn't come back to school right now because we have about half of our school is back on campus. So there's going to be juniors next year who have basically never set foot on campus.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
So we're like, they need to meet their counselors. They need to meet their principals. They need to meet their classmates. Like, they don't know anything about the school or where to go or what the clubs we have are, anything. So we're planning this like big 2-day event. It's going to be fun.
Well, I wasn't expecting to be the driving host tonight. Angelique, you were, I guess, scheduled to do it. But again, we knew ahead of time you were not going to be around. Will you be able to be the driving host next week?
I think so.
Ooh.
Pretty sure. I don't think I have anything going on next week.
Those of us who are part of Esports EDU, we're trying to, again, change up thing. Oh, Memorial Day weekend episode. God, Memorial Day weekend is next weekend?
3 days?
No.
Weekend. It's soon. 2 weeks?
It's next week.
I think it's next week. Don't take my.
Maybe it is. I don't know.
I need my 3-day weekend.
It is next week. Okay, yeah.
Well, we do this on Thursday. Sorry. It's your pre-Memorial. Next week will be your pre-Memorial Day. Like, get it out.
This Monday, but the next one. Yeah. It's soon.
I'm in a haze because we get out of school in 2 weeks, so it's just like, I don't know what day it is.
4-day weekend? I don't have a 4-day weekend. I have a 3-day weekend.
No, take Friday off.
That's a little harder now that I run a daily news site.
Hey, I love how people are putting in 2 weeks, or Todd saying, I wish it was. Unfortunately, I'm an administrator, so I work all year round.
You don't get a break. Yeah,
I don't get a break. We're going right into summer school.
I'm going right into summer school too. I'm teaching summer school, but that'll be a little bit easier because I'm out by 11:15. So.
Well, I have to work. I have to work during the summer. Our schedule is 4-hour days, but 10-hour days, or not 4 days a week, 10-hour days. Sorry,
I mean at least 4 days a week. That's
so I get 3-day weekends on through June, July, and then we have to go back 5-day weeks in August. But anyway,
Sam says she's hosting on June 10th.
Ooh, okay, sounds good. And yes, Nick, I did find friends. Oh, I see. Nick left because it was just me. So wait, Nick, no, you should have been here the whole time when friends showed up. I see how this is now. All right. Well, I guess we can just. Any final thoughts? I think we kind of.
I actually do have a final thought, and I'm gonna pop it in here because today is a day. Today is. And I've got like such a thick migraine, so I gotta think of it. It's the accessibility. It's Global Accessibility Awareness Day. Oh my gosh, my brain did it.
I can't copy paste. Hold on, I got you. Just keep talking.
Okay, so it's Global Accessibility Awareness Day. I think it's something that we don't talk about or think about enough in our esports programs, which is how to make sure that your program and everything you do is accessible as possible, down to the posts that we put out on social media, because I know a lot of you aren't doing alt text, and a lot of you are embedding a lot of stuff in graphics. So like there's so many things that we can do to make sure that we're accommodating for things like vision impairment, low hearing, mobility, different cognitive differences. So the article that I published today, because it's Thursday and I'm alive, has a couple different resources in it. One talks about the organization, National Accessibility Awareness Day. Oh my goodness, as well as Able Gamers, special effects. And Princeton University has a great page that is dedicated to how to make like your content more accessible. So what you can be doing to make sure that your website is as accessible as possible, as well as like social media and everything else. So I just challenge everybody to, go through and start seeing what you can do. It's definitely a process, but I believe the Princeton site, and I think this site too, has some cool tools on it, so you can actually go in and check your content to see how accessible it is, which is something that I need to do with all the Luminal and Snowbright stuff. But I think it's great the more we start thinking about how we can accommodate, as well as like special effects and Able Gamers. There's all the different adaptive technology that can be put in place to make sure that you are enabling your games. So you can have a wider level of like abilities for students that are participating. I'm so sorry, I'm having such a hard time talking today. My brain is all kinds of mush. So yeah, I would really love to see. I'd really love to see that happen. I think a story that I've got going out tomorrow kind of talks about like an esports competition that's based on adaptable technology. So like we have the ability to make the stuff happen for our students. We really need to start thinking about it ahead of time. That way, we open a door to kids that normally wouldn't even think about approaching us for services because, they can't use the tech we're running. I think it's really great if we know in advance, what sort of needs might be met, as well as what sort of games support accessibility features. Even somebody like me who's hard of hearing, there are a lot of games, especially competitive games, that can be really challenging if they don't have visual sound HUDs. So, knowing which games are going to be compatible and adaptable, like even things as simple as color blindness. I mean, come on, we know we've got students that are colorblind. If you're not adapting to that, if you're not building your websites with that in mind, if you're not creating your posts with that in mind, you're doing a disservice to your student body. Okay,
I'm showing this off too because this explains why Apple, if you go to their website today and you have an iPhone or an iPad or a Mac, they have highlighted all of their accessibility tools. So Carrie, I heard that you were using an iPhone because I recognize the tone of your text message. So, because I know when I was doing a lot of work in at the Cove School, where again every kid had an IEP, and we did have a lot of kids with accessibility, making sure it would be ironic if the Cove School, which again works with a lot of kids with disabilities, didn't have a website that was compliant. So, it is hard to do, and just because you have a really cool looking WordPress site doesn't mean that your WordPress site is going to be. Remember, Carrie, when Flash was all the websites and there was like no accessibility in Flash.
I mean, I can tell you right now, working on video games and trying to even get like a text-to-speech feature, like accessibility is not easy. We have not gotten to a point in our society where we care enough about accessibility features that we make them easy to implement. Websites are not easy to implement them. Games that are being developed, it's really hard to overlay some of these features into the technology because the platforms that you develop the games on don't necessarily have this stuff built into it or supported natively. So we're not there yet. My hope is that eventually we will be, but it takes all of us doing as much as we can and asking for that sort of stuff to be there. So starts with us.
I mean, and like teaching online, we had to do, I think like 60 hours of training over summer last year. And a lot of those hours were teaching us how to make our Canvas courses accessible and alt tagging and all of that. And it didn't even, I'll be honest, like it didn't even cross my mind. I mean, I always type my directions out and everything, but they're like, caption your videos and alt tag your images and all this stuff. And
turn closed captioning on if you're running a Zoom meeting.
Oh my God.
I can't tell you how many Zoom meetings I've been invited to this year that
You
have
can set
not,
that as a default, by the way. You
but
can go into
people
your
don't do it.
I know, but I'm saying if you know this, if you're a host and you're
Do it.
just go into your Zoom settings and it's buried, but you can find it will turn on closed captioning for you automatically and it works. The reason why we stream to YouTube and to LinkedIn on here as well too is because they do automatic closed captioning.
Mm-hmm.
So if
The
you're
Zoom closed captioning is good too. I love it.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
So
when it's turned on.
yes.
Which is a much never.
I mean, you have to, because like even regardless of accessibility, like my kids are dropping in and out of Zoom all the time.
Yeah.
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 Well,
we can.
This will do it for tonight. Next week, Angelique is going to drive the ship.
I'll bring my mic.
Oh yes, you do have to bring it. All right. Some of us will be here and maybe some of us won't. I don't know. Maybe Angelique just gets to start the show by herself.
No, that sounds scary. I'll just play Fortnite. I'll just invite everyone to play Fortnite with me.
Sounds fun. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining in, and everybody have a great rest of your week.
Bye.